Okay, so in this, we're on page Nun Vav, and in this section of the maamar, he said he was going to address the connection between, after he explained the Indian of V'yodaita Moskve, it's our job to know this, and the way we achieve real knowledge of this, the way we actually uncover the light of Havaya that's contained within the Shem Elikim, or using the analogy of the Rebbe and the Talmud, how we see the nimshal in the mashal, which the light of Havaya Yudkevavke is like the mashal, and the Shem Elikim is like the nimshal. So he said that that's through Nisyonis. And here in this maamar, he's speaking in terms of the Nisayon of the challenge of going out and making a living and having to not let that get in the way of your Avodas Hashem and Torah mitzvahs. So then he said he was going to explain what the connection between that is and Yetzias Mitzrayim and Knesses Haaretz, because this statement that Moshe tells the Jewish people with that Hayom is in the middle of a whole speech that he's giving, which is, so it's sandwiched between remembering the fact that Hashem took you out of Mitzrayim and the fact that he's going to take you into the land. So it's sort of, what's the connection? So he said that before he's going to explain that, he's first going to explain what the sin of the Deraf Floga was. So he said this, as we know, that it's brought from the Arizal, that the Shibud of the Jews who were in the Shibud of Mitzrayim were Gilgulim of the Deraf Floga, and that with the work with the Chaim and Levanim, they rectified the sin of Batihilam Halavena La'aven. So we have to understand what exactly was the sin of the Deraf Floga. So he explains that Afloga means separation, conflict, separation. So he said that basically the period here in Ruchnius that it's talking about is separating between the Shem Elikim and the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is by seeing the ways and means through which the Hashpah from the Shem Havaya comes into the world, to see the ways and means as the main thing, and to lose sight of the fact that it's only an outside packaging and delivery system, and to separate between the Shem Elikim, the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, and in fact it says that it says in the Medrash that the chet of the Deraf Floga was, it says the pasuk the V'nasa Lanu Shem. The Torah doesn't really tell us. Torah doesn't really tell us what their sin was. It just is V'nasa Lanu Shem, and the Chazal explained that Shem alludes to Avodah Zarah. So what is that? That the sin, that this is what they were trying to do, separate between the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei and the Shem Elikim, and that this was the sin of Avodah Zarah. So he says that, we explained before, that you can't get from the name Yud Kei Vav Kei to a finite limited being that lives in a finite limited existence. So the Shem Elikim is the necessary tool to get the outcome that you want, which is that there should be a Metzius Yesh. But it's not just a tool. So it's the tool and the means and the system, the delivery system, the packaging system, but at the same time, I'm sorry, I have this mic open now. So basically, everything, all these middlemen, so to speak, between the infinite creative energy of the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, all these steps in between, celestial angels and celestial bodies and all the systems of physical life as we know it. That's all just the packaging system. That's all the delivery system. It's all coming from, and they're all connected to the Shem Elokim, and that's why Malachim are called by the name Elokim or Bnei Elokim, because it's all part of that system. So in this sense, they're intermediaries. So he explained, so we started saying this, but Imken Harei Movin, if so, it's understood that the whole purpose is that it's really the infinite creative energy of the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's only that it's passing through these channels that come from the Shem Elokim. And if so, it's understood that intermediary in and of itself is nothing. Both the hashba and certainly the creation of bringing it into existence is not coming from the intermediary. It's just passing through it. The only thing that is happening is that through this intermediary is passing through the divine, the flow, the hashpa of the godly light that brings into existence all created beings. Okay, and if that's the case, if it can't, it doesn't, it's not the source of the creative energy, it's not the source of the sustaining flow of energy, so it's all just passing through. Okay, therefore, one should not give any importance, any weight and importance to the intermediary at all. It's not something to be considered. As it says in the pasuk, would the axe pride itself over the wood chopper? Okay, so that obviously makes no sense, right? He says, you couldn't do this without me, right? So I'm the one who's actually chopping the tree. That's obviously, that's an absurdity. We understand. That's why it's being framed that way. Even though he's chopping through the axe, still in all, the chaytzav is the person, and not the axe. Because the axe, in and of itself, will not do a thing. It's only that the person is working and operating using the tool of the axe. Nobody would ever come along and say, wow, look at this beautiful building that the axe built. What an axe. What a job. Right? Or the other way, say, wow, what an amazing axe that built this building. But rather they would say they praise the builder. They praise the one who actually built it. They say, wow, what a great job he did in building this building, and the building is referred to by his name. But the name of the axe is not referred to in the building at all. The building is not named, axe number whatever, because it's nothing to do with the axe. The reason is because it's only that through it the construction was able to come about, but it itself is not the builder. It is not possessed of any volition at all in the building. It has no will, free will or otherwise, has no volition whatsoever. And it has no power in and itself to build. Rather, it is the person that does the building. So that being the case, the same thing should be understood with the heavenly, celestial, heavenly, supernal intermediaries, that they are only like an axe in the hand of the woodsman. Shayadam Eberashba, that's through them that the divine, creative, and sustaining energies flow, but not that it comes from their own power, and they are not volitional beings at all. When it comes to the hashpa, they have no say, no free will to decide if or if not, there will not be hashpa. Rather, the mashpia, the one who is bestowing this beneficence, is godliness. That's where the flow is coming from. Shemashpia b'tzeni yisbarach, that he gives forth in through his will. But the actual flow is channeled through these intermediaries for this express purpose, in order that there should be able to come into existence a physical existence, which should come into being the physical existence, and that it should be able to be drawn to them a flow of light and energy, physical light and energy, according to their level where they're at, what they can receive.
Yes. From the way you described L'chatchila, that Havaya Elikim and Havaya is Kul Echad, so there's a chumrah in it. That means Elikim is mamish the mahava, right?
Right.
And he explained Barichos at the beginning that that it's just expressing through it. They're both koiches became one. That's why it's not a stira. Here all of a sudden he's dropping Elikim he's saying Elikim is mamish like the garzen that has
I said, okay, that's a good point. So the thing is that he's saying when you get into pirud, when you start, which is what he's addressing here, those who separate between Havaya and Elikim, when you get into pirud, then what you're really saying is that what you're trying to do is you're trying to make the intermediaries a force unto themselves. You're trying to make Elikim as a separate force, and that we have to be shayla of that possibility. So it has no existence of its own. It is simply used as a means. Its source is Kul Echad because it's Kashem Sheyesh Lekerech B'Bilti B'Gvul Keyesh Lekach Yesh Lekerech B'Gvul. It comes from the same source of divine.
Yeah, but that wasn't enough at the beginning of the mind.
And similarly, that's where it comes in its source, and therefore it's all one. It's all him. The thing is, though, in the actual process of now there's a recipient. Somebody's getting something. On the other end, if the recipient separates is now looking from his perspective, from the perspective of the tachtin, so to speak, the low being looking up from his perspective, he's going to separate the two. That then you miss the point because that's really nothing on its own. It's only there to serve a purpose.
So V'yodaita Yom is to look from the Eibishter's perspective.
Well, but that even from your perspective, you should realize that not necessarily to see from the Eibishter's perspective, because even the Talmud, in the mashal of a Talmud and a Rebbe, so the Talmud who thinks, wow, what a great story. My Rebbe is such a great storyteller, and he doesn't realize that it's an analogy for a deep concept. So he totally missed the boat, right? Because he separated the story from the lesson, from the concept. So he completely missed the boat. So you have to at least be at the point, you have to at least be able to acknowledge that it's all only a message, a packaging system. From your perspective. From the divine perspective, then it's all him, which, as we said, that would be the one the Talmud realizes after the 40 years, and the Talmud realizes how the Rebbe understands the concept, and now he looks back at how the Rebbe understands the mashal. Once he understands how the Rebbe understands the concept, now he can look back and say, now I see the wisdom of how the Rebbe packed all that into the mashal. But he's not there yet. That's ultimately when he gets there. Yes, he'll be able to see it from the perspective of the Eibushin. But you have to be alert enough to know, even now, before you got there, you have to know that is the reality, even though you don't see it yet. But it's only that the reality is that don't get distracted by the packaging. You get a really beautiful package, you got to take the wrapping paper off and open it up and look inside. As beautiful as it is on the outside, it's only there he's describing a der haflaga. He's in the middle of explaining a der haflaga that intentionally wants to separate the two. I don't want to know from you. I want to enjoy life. I want to have. I want to make sure I can get the best. I want to make sure I can get the best delivery packages of what life has to offer, and I'm not interested in you. So that's the other extreme that you can get to, is where you can disconnect to such an extent.
If I understand correctly, the pashkevim that they put out against Chassidim, that Aimer la'etzav and alakayata. And the Yidden held Einer Milvadei, and the Chassidim held the Einer Milvadei. They were right, because if it's Taka Nifrud already, then it's a problem. If you look at the world as its own entity, so then you cannot look at it like Elikus. You're not allowed to, because then you're seeing it. Yeah, right. And if you look at it like Elikus, the Shaila is not. Heaven is an heaven, and now you're saying that it's all Elikus. That's where the problem started.
They were wrong in the first place. It was always only Elikus. It's just. Right. It's just
means the whole Isser is, if you consider it other than the Eibishter, then there's a pirud, there's a flaga,
so you
cause the problem, and
you're the fromest form of pirud that there is. But but from there it starts and goes to many layers till you're mamish by the flaga. He says, this idea that not to get caught up in the ways and means, but to realize that it's all just a packaging and delivery system, is also explained elsewhere in that Hashem will bless you in everything that you do. Now that's even more challenging. I'm doing it, and you tell me that what I'm doing is only the packaging and delivery system. That's a little more challenging. That the person needs to do it. He needs to be engaged in material activities, like, for example, being involved in business, right? Which, like we mentioned in previous times, if you were living in Moscow at that time, that's what you were there for. He needs to do these things because he is required to receive his life energy, right? He has to make a living from material, physical, light, and energy. But if the person could live from spiritual light, that's where he would get his nourishment from spiritual energy. Like, for example, if he could sustain himself from intellectual delights, that would be enough to sustain him. And the like, as he adds parenthetically, dugmas, kabbalas, chayas, and neshamas began Eden, similar to the way the neshamas get their life energy in Gan Eden. Shemekavlim chayusam, they receive their light energy mehasoga belakus, from their apprehension and comprehension and grasp of godliness. As it says, they sit and delight in the ray of the Shekhinah. Like our sages said, regarding the future time to come, which is the later period in the future time to come. There will be no eating and drinking. But the righteous will sit with their crowns on their heads, and they will delight in the ray of the Shekhinah. That is to say, that similar to the way the body, the person, the individual receives his life energy from eating and drinking, physical eating and drinking, so too in the future time, the receiving of life energy, sustaining life energy, will be from the fact that they are delighting, pleasuring in the ray of from the ray of the Shekhinah. So that was the parenthetical comment. So if it were possible for a person to sustain himself through spiritual delights, if that were the case, there would be absolutely no need to be involved in business or material business and activities. Because he is forced, he's compelled to receive his life force in the form of physical energy pills. It's got to come through. So therefore, the hashpah has to pass through activities, actual physical involvement in material business and dealings. In order for the hashpah to become more concretized, more materialized, according to the level where he's at, it has to reach him at his level. Amnam, however, etzem hashpah hu me'elikus. The hashpah itself, that life energy, that life-sustaining, or potential for life-sustaining energy that's being channeled through that paycheck or that business deal or that, it's all from Elikus. Actually, that is hashpah, the mutzoyim, the malachim, the mazolas, except that the hashpah pierces through a whole system. There's a system of mutzoyim, of malachim, angels, and mazolas, and celestial bodies, and another part of the packaging system and delivery system is it has to come down further. It has to become more physical. So therefore, it comes out through the being involved in material things. And that energy flow dresses itself up in actual physical bread and the like. That from this he receives his life-giving and life-sustaining energy. But all of this is really only the godly light that's dressing itself up and is being drawn to him through these intermediaries. Now, when a person knows this and he actually absorbs it well, it's not just knowing it is the easy part. Right? The challenging part is that you can actually absorb it well. He will not put his mind and his thoughts into worldly matters. And he will not allow himself to become disturbed, that his mind should be occupied with this at all, except when he's actually doing it, as opposed to most people who, after they leave the business, when they've not a job is to start worrying and then thinking and planning and plotting and conniving and replaying, I should have done this and I should have done that, right? So all that stuff happens. So for this person, it's like he's not occupied with this at all. Rather, all of his consciousness, his mind and his thoughts, should be in the Eibishter, in God. davening and learning. The Havaya Yud Kei Vav Kei, that's where the Eibishter as he is above nature, the Eibishter himself. That's where he's focused. That's where the connection is made through the source of everything, and you do that through davening and learning. And the being involved in worldly matters will not distract him at all, and get him agitated, upset. And they will not prevent him from serving Hashem, because after he knows well that the main thing is the godliness that is channeling to him this life force, but all the intermediaries, and the same applies to all of the physical objects and things and systems in which the hashpah is dressed up, whether it's in business dealings, or in the actual food that he's eating. They are nothing in and of themselves, because they themselves are not the main source of his life. The main thing is the godly light. That's just the nozzle. That's just focusing and packaging and delivering in the way that you can receive it. But that's not where it's coming from. The main thing is the godly light. All of the things and material things are only intermediaries, v'kelim, and tools, tools and vessels in which the godly light is dressed up, in order that this life force, this energy, should come down to the person in a physical form in a way that he can receive it. If that's the case, then none of them can, these material matters, it's not possible for them to distract them. Or that they should hold them back from learning and davening. Because he does not consider them anything important at all. They're not of primary importance. The only way that they could do either of those things, get him distracted or serve as, or try to prevent them from learning and davening, is only if he gives them some weight, some importance, some significance. But if they're insignificant, he said, I was on my way to shul and an ant blocked my way. You know what I'm saying? If it's completely insignificant, it's not like it's not even an issue. So it's not shaykh. It's completely outside of the realm of shaykhs, because it's nothing. The main thing is Elokus. That being the case, that the main thing is Elokus. So what's required to keep the channels open is to be only connected to the Eibishter and his Torah. And also he should not go in a way of tachbulas, of trying to come up with clever tactics in his business, that he needs to do it this way or that way, and to try to come up with the sharpest angle, harbest basic, and also to be doing a lot of business, a lot of deals, to the point that it's getting in his way and preventing him from Torah or Tefillah in the times that are the Shas HaKesh, the times that are for that, So it goes over into the Torah and Tefillah times. That's not. He has to be careful with that. But he should be involved in the business according to his level. Meaning, not look to come up with to try to outsmart the system, not look to try to overwork the system. You're not playing the system. You have to. It means wherever you're at. If you're at the point where you're doing larger deals, so you don't have to do smaller deals. You can do larger deals. But wherever you're at, that's what you should be doing, operating in a straight way and in a way that's not taxing your time too much. And it should be in a way that it doesn't prevent him from davening in its proper time and from being engaged in Torah study every day. Yivtach b'Hashem, and he should put his trust in Hashem, who gives him his life and life force, that the same God who's giving you life will give you the means to sustain life, your parnasa, all your days through this thing that you're doing. As it says clearly in the pasuk, that Hashem is the one that gives you the power to do and achieve success. All the more so, that he should be very, very cautious. It's benafshe, it's in his soul. That there should not even be the slightest hint of anything prohibited in his business dealings. Because after the fact that he knows well, this is his reality. It's not just something he read in a book, but this is what his conscious reality, that the business and the dealings are only an intermediary and a vessel, in which is dressed up the light and life force, the godly light and life force that gives him life and provides for him. If that is the case, it's necessary that it be a suitable vessel for godly light. If it has even the slightest inkling, hint of a prohibition, God forbid, in that case, it is not a suitable light for the a suitable vessel for the godly light. Rather, it must be entirely clean from any slightest hint of a prohibition or sinful behavior. And then it is a vessel that through it should be drawn the godly light and life force to give him life. And in order to be successful in all this, that's when you unify the names of Havaya and Elokim. Which is to say that the name Elokim does not conceal at all, cover up at all the name Havaya. And the entire creative enterprise of bringing existence into existence is all from Shem Havaya, except that energy, that creative energy is channeled through the vessels of Shem Elokim, if that's the way it is in the source and godliness, therefore he also consequently, he knows that once you recognize that Shem Elokim is all one with Shem Havaya, then you realize that all of the intermediaries, such as the angels and the celestial bodies, einam klum mitzad atzmam, they are nothing in and of themselves. Shem rak shluchei hashefa, Kigazim b'yada chetziv. They are only messengers to deliver the bounty, the flow, the energy that's being transferred through them. Kigazim b'yada chetziv, like an axe in the hand of the woodsman. K'meikin gam advarim hagashmim. And so too, even further down in our physical world, the physical objects themselves, they are only vessels in which is dressed up the godly force. Therefore, he does not credit them with being a primary importance at all. The main thing is the godly force that is being channeled to him through them. And therefore, and as a result, he will exert effort, and he will try very much that it should be, and he should be a proper vessel to receive the godly light. Therefore, he will not engage in these activities trying to be clever ploys and tactics and strategies, or also by putting himself overly much in the business. They will not distract him or confuse him. That they should not become things that hold back and interfere from being engaged in Torah, learning, davening, and serving and serving God. And in particular, especially when you know that the things in and of themselves, it's impossible for them to hold you back or to restrain you from serving God. Because they're not real concealments and covers up, as we explained earlier at length. That all of the intermediaries, on the contrary, they're not covering anything up. They're delivering. They're showing up. They're making the delivery. They're delivering the light and the flow that's being sent down. This is they're just deliveries from God and godliness. How could they be anything that would hold you back and restrain the person from serving God? So what is the whole problem? How could this even become an issue? So the thing itself is not holding you back. You know what's holding you back? It's yourself. V'yodaita You're the one who made them into a problem. They were never a problem. They're fine. It's the person in the lack of his knowledge, in the lowliness of his knowledge and his attachment to external things. So he's the one that forgets about godliness. And he gives credence and weight and importance to the physical things as if he considers them as if they're an actual something, an existence of their own, and he devotes himself to them. In that case, once you turn them into this, you're the one who makes the separation. When you're mafred, now you turn them into the problem. They were not a problem in and of themselves, but you, or the person himself, is the one who turned them. And then they actually do hold him back and prevent him. But when he will set his mind and heart, give over his mind and heart into the oneness of Hashem. It is only He alone that He's the one who gives you the power to succeed. And all of the intermediaries are only that through them the flow passes through them. But the main thing is that in that case there will be no hindrances or obstacles at all, whether internally or externally, because there's nothing else going on except the Elikus. And therefore you will be attached and connected only to Elikus. And his involvement in business affairs will only be with Chetzenis Haratzin, with the external will. So basically an external will is when you don't want the thing itself, you just want it as a means to something else. So he's not interested in the business, he's interested, so that's a Chetzenis Haratzin, not interested in the business, because it's just a means to something else. Since it has to travel through this channel of doing, as we explained before, as we explained before, on the subject of Hashem will bless you in everything that you do, and as a result, his involvement in business will be the way it's meant to be, as we explained before. Not too involved, not too busy with it, not too distracted by it, not doing anything that's corrupt or improper. And his main attachment will be in godliness. Then he will be whole in his relationship with God and in his Torah and his service of Hashem. But if he, God forbid, separates between Havaya and Elikim, so there what ends up is that he thinks that the name Elikim is in fact truly does cover up the name Havaya. And he thinks that all the things that happen in the world is from the Shem Elikim on its own. So as a result, he will think that the intermediaries are the main thing. That is from them that comes the source of that provides his life and livelihood. So it's explained in Chassidus that this pasuk Azav Hashem is Haaretz is going. This is what the Goyim say, that Hashem abandoned the earth. This is what the Goyim say. What does it mean that he abandoned the earth? It's not, they were not, these Gentiles are not fools, they were great philosophers. And as great philosophers, they came to the conclusion that God is too lofty to be involved with the minor details of the operation system of Earth. So he put a system in place of low-level functionaries that their job is to keep things running. He has more important things to be occupied with than the minor small. I mean, if you're running this, then you'd have this the smallest details. You're saying literally, right? Chazal say that the Eibusher's Zon, Mikarni Re'emim Ad Beit Sekinam, that the Eibusher provides from for the largest animals to the smallest eggs of the eggs of a louse, that he has to gives them energy, gives them life. So you're saying you have to say that God is invested in even those tiniest details. They were great philosophers and great thinkers, and they came to the conclusion that they could not come up with a system that would make sense. That why would God, an infinite creator, be involved with such minor things? So based on their great philosophy, they decided that Azam Hashem is Haaretz. Oh, so Shaimrim, so that they say, so it's explained, Shaimrim Shashba Lamata Nimshucha Me'amazolus Shaimrim Mashpim B'Keir Atzma. So what are they saying? That the hashpah down below comes from the mazolus through the celestial bodies. Shehema mashpia b'keich atzma. They're the ones that are mashpia on their own power. They're in charge of running stuff down here. Varehu mechashiv eisam l'davama. And he or they, these Gentiles, they consider these intermediaries as something of some independent standing, not the big boss. They believe there's a big boss, but they're the little boss. Okay, you know, if you have a problem with if you have a problem with your building inspector, you're not going to the mayor, so you're going to go to his supervisor and maybe find out if there's a way that you can make him happy and take care of whatever. So you're going to find a way to get to someone a little up the chain, but not you don't go all the way to the top. So he's machashiv them the davamam achshim hamashpim lechayusichu. So he's machashiv them, these intermediaries, for something, because they're the ones that are providing him with his sustenance, with his life-giving sustenance. And therefore he also gives credence and weight and significance to the physical things themselves, to really be involved, work at them with all his power, with all his abilities, in order to increase his parnasa. If he wants to increase his parnasa, he's not thinking, what's going to really increase my parnasa? Another Blat Gemara. I really want to up my game. I got another Blat Gemara, another my Mechsidus, another few minutes spent on my davening, Tracht Mechsidus for davening. That's really going to get my parnasa going. No, that's not how he thinks. He thinks that if I want to give a parnasa, I gotta put in more. Right? He got himself a coach, and he went to a success course, and he do it too. You have to, you gotta put it. So he says, Avodah Zarah. That's the Indian of Avodah Zarah. Why? What's Avodah Zarah? What's the Ovid Avodah Zarah doing? He's serving the stars and the other celestial bodies, and and he bows down to them. Why? He's not doing this for fun and games. He's not doing this for entertainment. Why is he bowing down to the moon? Why is he bowing down to the sun? Why is he offering up his kid to some star or something? He's not doing that because he got nothing better to do with his time. He's doing it because he thinks that that's going to bring him hashpah, that they're the ones that are being mashpiyah to him. So that's what Avodah Zarah is about. I'm the only reason they're not the big boss. They are. It says we say that the Goyim say that they admit that it's Elokad Elokaya, that there's a big boss. There's the big God. He's in charge of everybody and everything. They all answer to him. But so what? I'm not looking to go all the way to the top. I don't need to speak to the CEO. Just give me the guy who signs. I'm just trying to get to the buyer. I'm just trying to get to the guy who can help me out. I don't need to deal with the big boss.
have a question.
Okay, yeah. Ask
saying
some questions.
before you
I would stop. I
you
would
would
stop
stop
here
here.
anyway in the text.
You can tell me that it's not the subject of the discussion, but Derech Agav, he said earlier when he was trying to describe that the Gashmis is not the Ikadikas, the Ashla from Neighbors. Just he said you could have been like Malachim, that they're sustained by the Gila Lakos, or like Neshamas the way they are Lamaila. The way Neshamas are Lamaila.
Okay, he didn't frame it that way. He said if it was possible, then you wouldn't need this.
But he says, Dugmas Taka the Neshamas, that's the way
that they are in Gan Eden, they will be lost love.
And that they Taka get sustenance. So
lost love is even the bodies.
Right, and then it's Menaguf. Right. But I just want clarity. You could say it's Mamash, not the Indian. Okay. But it says in Perik Hey of Tanya that the Nesham is Nizain from Limda Teir. That's why Teir is called Mazay. What's Pshat? What does it mean that the Neshama, Lamaila, is gonna need fuel from Androisen, or like the Neshama is Menaguf? Isn't it gonna or isn't the Neshama on the level that, unless Tak it's a Nivra, but if then how Guf it's a beer? What's Pshat? The Neshama needs, like the Guf needs food, the Neshama needs Torah. Again, it could be a whole separate sugya.
It is a whole separate sugya, but basically it's...
Once he touched on it, it's something about it that
basically, the idea is that, yes, an Neshama in Gan Eden is still on the level of Elikus Shanas and Nivra. There's no... the Eibush as he is above being a Nivra, is not in any Gan, is not in any Eden, it's the source of all of those things. It's not. There's no Shechina to be Nana from the Zerah. It's only relating in that way when it's Elikus Shanas and Nivra, except that it's a Nivra that's in Eilim Yisrael Yenim. It's not a Nivra that's in Eilim Haz Agashim.
So at what point does the Neshama become Uchad b'Mekoyre that it doesn't need?
So the idea is that it's going to...
the way you're going now, it sounds like Gan Eden is just... It
is a step on the way. So this explains it's a step on the way to prepare you for loss and love. That the Neshama really needs. That's what the Rebbe says. It's possible that we should go straight without having to... It says Sadiq B'chayzim L'Afram, that they have to die in order to get and then come back. That even those who are alive, it sounds like those who are alive will have to die and come back, because you got to go through the process, whatever that process is. However, they could speed it up, but you have to go through it. Even when the Rebbe talks uses these lashonos of that being the scholar that the Yesh HaNivra and the Yesh HaMiti is Kulachad and Yisrael V'Raisa Kulachad and that's a paradox that is going that there will be a Lakus Shenasa Nivra, and that in the Lakus Shenasa Nivra vetzich der Herren, as is vetzich der Herren beide in the Lakus Shenasa Nivra. It's a paradox that he's a chelik of the Beire to have the Beire experience inside a Nivra experience. That's a paradox. To us, you're either this or you're that. How you, and the answer is to the Creator. You are the Creator. You are the Creator. That you created this whole experience of an individual experience that's individual kiviyachol from the Creator. So you have within the Creator all these different individual experiences. So that's the point. There'd be a relationship between Creator and creation, in which the creation, that's the head, and that he's part of the Creator. The Creator has no problem recognizing that the creation is part of the Creator, because there was never anything blocking that from him. But so he lives with that paradox. For him, it's not even a paradox to him. But from the Tzad and Nivra, yes, it is a paradox.
Recently, I was giving a lot of thought about this. That the neshama, people don't realize, the neshama is a nivra to the extent that the personality of a person stays also after he passes away. That personality is still him as a nivra, to to the extent that people, when they, you have to be mesiachas them with the same, because the midas of the neshama are part of the geboy of the neshama continues that way.
By the way, we can.
Yeah.